And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Today we're here with Sentinels of the Multiverse, which is a cooperative game in which the players play superheroes who are fighting against a villain who is trying to terrorize the area. And so everybody's going to have a deck of their own superhero cards. You're going to have variable villains and variable locations, and you're doing your best to take out the hero before he wipes out your party of players. So, before we take a look at my opinion on the game, why don't we take a look at what you get inside the box. We'll go over how the game plays real briefly, and then I'll come back and I'll sum it all up with my opinion of the game. So Sentinels of the Multiverse is a superhero game in which you're going to be fighting different villains. And there are 4 villains included in the game, and each villain has his own deck of cards. And when you start to play, you're going to choose one of these villains, either randomly or if you just want to choose which one you want to play with. And it's going to have different effects that the villain has in the game, as well as a whole deck of cards, which are that villain's minions and effects. Additionally, you're going to have 4 different locations that are available. Again, you can choose randomly, or you can decide which one you want to play. And these these location decks are going to have different effects that will happen due to the location during the game on each turn. So you'll be combating both a villain and a location each time, and the variety of choosing different combinations of each is going to keep the game fresh with each play. In addition to the variable villains and locations, you're going to have 10 hero decks. And each player is going to use 1 hero deck. So in a 2-player game, you're going to have 2 heroes. A 4-player game, you're going to have 4 heroes. And you get to choose which one of these heroes you want to play. And when you choose a hero, let's say, for example, we choose Ra, it's going to give you a special ability. So, for example, Ra here, his power is that he can deal 1 target 2 fire damage. And so he's going to be able to use this power on his turn if he chooses to use that power in order to hurt one of the enemies. In addition, each hero has hit points. And so, for example, Ra here has 30 hit points. And when Ra gets to 0 hit points, he's going to flip over, and he's going to have an effect that he can use that basically makes all of the other players a little bit better because Ra has been vanquished, and that makes everybody else angry and a little bit better. In addition to that, each player has their own deck, and these decks of cards are going to be the powers, equipment, and various different effects that you can use throughout the game. Some of them may be one-shot type effects that will hurt an enemy or give you a benefit, while some of them may be ongoing but limited. So, for example, this one here, the flame barrier, which is probably going to give you some type of protection. And then you have equipment and stuff that goes on your character, and these are what you'll be using in order to defeat your enemies. So here we can see a game set up for 2 players in which the heroes Absolute Zero and Tachyon are going to be fighting Omnitron in the Megalopolis. And everything's all set up here. We have our villain and our location, our 2 heroes. And the game is going to start, each round is going to start with a villain turn. And the villain is going to have special instructions on how he operates. This villain's going to flip to one side or the other and have different effects on each side. I'm not going to go over all of that, but know that they have some special abilities. And then after you've activated any beginning of turn effects for the villain, which could be printed on any of the cards, you're going to flip one of these cards from the deck and you're going to do whatever it says. In this case, it's a drone, which is going to come into play. It has 4 hit points, which you'll need to deal damage to it in order to get rid of it. And at the end of the turn, he's going to heal Omnitron for as many hit points, +1, as there are drones in play. So until you get rid of those guys, you're not really going to be able to kill this guy because he'll keep healing each turn. Then you're going to do any end of villain turn effects, and after that you're going to proceed to the hero turn. So Absolute Zero and Tachyon are going to get their turns in whichever order they're sitting around the table. So let's say it's Absolute Zero's turns. He's going to have a hand of cards. The first thing he's going to do is activate any start of turn abilities he has on cards in front of him, but then after that he's going to be able to play a card from his hand. 1 and only 1 card, unless an effect gives him more card plays. But for example, he could play Modular Realignment, which is a one-shot ability. And this is going to allow him to go through his discard pile and get any one equipment, putting it back into his hand or into play. So he can get rid of something, or get something that he's already gotten rid of, and add it back to his stuff. Alternatively, he could play Focused Aperture, and what this is a piece of equipment which apparently streamlines a beam of cold from his hand, and it's going to increase all cold damage he does by 1 while he's wearing it. Or we have, for example, another piece of equipment. We have the Cryo Chamber, which is going to increase all of his cold damage by 1, but it's going to decrease all fire damage that he takes, or that he deals, all that he takes by 1. So it increases his cold damage and also decreases damage he takes, and then he can use it to actually deal 5 fire damage to himself, but in doing so he destroys the card. And there's reasons you would want to deal damage to yourself. After you've played your one card, you can use any one power effect. And you'll note these cards have powers at the bottom, for example, dealing 5 damage and getting rid of the card. Or, for example, your hero card, which you have in play all the time, has power on it. For example, this one says Absolute Zero deals himself 1 fire damage or 1 cold damage. And a lot of his cards are going to be focused on dealing yourself damage in order to deal damage to opponents or to heal yourself. After you've done that, you've used your starter turn effects, you've played your card and used your power, you're going to move on by drawing a card. After you've drawn a card, you're going to end your turn by doing any end of turn effects, and then it would go to the next hero's turn. And she would do the same thing. After she's finished her turn, we're going to go into the environment turn. And the environment turn is essentially going to have you flip one of these cards after doing any start of turn effects. You're going to flip one of these cards and follow the instructions. So for example, here we have Impending Casualty, and it says at the start of the environment turn, each hero may destroy one of their ongoing cards. This card deals any hero that did not destroy a card 3 psychic damage. So this is going to stay out. It's going to stay out, and if you destroy a card, you can prevent the damage. But at the end of the environment turn, you can discard a card from your hand to destroy this card. So you get these each round, and if you want to do the effects to get rid of them, or you can get rid of them, you would like to, but if you don't, they're probably going to have a harmful effect. After you've gone through the environment turn, you're going to do any end of environment turn phases, and then you're going to go back to the monster's turn again, or to the villain's turn again, performing the same series of events. The game is going to go on until you manage to either defeat the monster by doing one of the defeat conditions for the monster that will be printed on its card, or until both heroes have been disabled and you are no longer able to fight back against the villain. So now that we've seen how Sentinels of the Multiverse plays, why don't I give you my thoughts on it? Let's start with the cons. At 2 players, the game is incredibly hard. I don't really think it's designed for 2. It is playable with 2, and it's probably actually winnable with 2, but it's very difficult. So if you look for more of a challenge, try it with 2 players. Now, on the upsides, the theme really does fit the gameplay. You kind of feel like you're playing a superhero who is battling against some type of maniacal genius who is trying to conquer the world, or, a killer robot. Doesn't matter, whichever one of those enemies you might get, it does kind of feel like you're fighting against them. The environment going against you most of the time can be a little annoying, but definitely helps keep the game, I guess, balanced against the heroes a little bit, and it's definitely difficult to win, but not impossible to win. And I think that's an important factor in a cooperative game. So if you're looking for a good cooperative game for 2 players, to 4 players, definitely better with 3, and I can't speak to 4, but I would say even better with 4. You should probably take a look at Sentinels of the Multiverse, especially if you are into the comic book genre type of game. I think it's something that you will really enjoy.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.